Welcome to Module 4, Third-Party Libraries. At this point, we've already covered how we can create a custom user interface in NetSuite using NetSuite Forms. And we've also looked at how we can create HTML pages using Suitelets. Now we're going to expand on that knowledge on this module by looking at how we can use existing third-party libraries for creating our custom user interface. By the end of this course, we should be able to recognize other templating engines that we can use aside from the n/render module, which is part of SuiteScript 2.0. We're going to look specifically at Lodash as an alternative to FreeMarker for your templating needs. We're also going to look at how you can use third-party UI libraries so that you can further enhance your HTML pages by adding graphical user interfaces, or maybe just add some animation or a little bit of interactivity on your form. First, let's take a look at how we can use third-party libraries in SuiteScript 2.0. There are two kinds of libraries that you can use in SuiteScript 2.0. One would be AMD compatible libraries, and then two would be non-AMD compatible libraries. Loading AMD compatible libraries would be very easy in SuiteScript 2.0. All you need to do is just define the path or specify the path of your library in your define statement. So as you can see here, I have my Lodash library, which I have added in my define statement. And then on my function call, I need not put a placeholder because my Lodash library has a global variable of an underscore. So I don't have to specify a placeholder for that particular module or library. If you are going to use a non-AMD library, what you need to do is that you need to call or you need to use the require statement. For the require statement, you have to use require config. And for the require config, you have to specify the path of where that particular library is. When you define the path, you will also be defining the name that you will be using or you will be referring to when you call that particular library. For example, in this case, we are calling the moment.js library, and we're calling that moment.js library moment. So when we go to our define statement, we're going to call that as a module. So that module would be based on the name that you used on the require config call. In this case, we call that moment. And then also we have to define the variable or our placeholder so that we can call that inside our code. Now let's talk about how we can use third-party libraries as options for our templating engine. Like what we've seen in the previous module, you can use SuiteScript 2.0 for your templating needs using the render module and the FreeMarker syntax. Now, if you already are familiar with other templating engines or JavaScript templating engines, you are free to use that, especially if you already have templates that are written for that particular templating engine. But again, if you are going to start from scratch and this is the first time that you will be using a templating engine, we do recommend that you stick with FreeMarker and the n/render module. But for this module, we're going to explore another templating engine so that you can see how it works. Specifically, that templating engine that we're going to use is the Lodash API. The Lodash API is not just a templating engine, but it's actually a utility library, and it's a superset of the underscore library. If you already know how to use underscore, you should be able to use Lodash easily. Lodash syntax is very easy because it actually uses JavaScript syntax that you can fully embed in your HTML template. If you are going to include JavaScript code inside your template, all you need to do is just enclose your JavaScript syntax inside angle brackets and %. So here in this example, we are calling the Lodash library, which is defined as an underscore, and then we're looping through a set of items inside my array using the for each method on my Lodash library. And as you can see, I am enclosing that inside angle brackets and %. Now with the Lodash library, you're not limited to just using JavaScript. As you can see here, I'm looping through a list HTML tag and passing the information of the item on my list tag. If you're going to extract a variable off of your script and use that on your template, what you need to do is that you need to add in an equal sign on your starting tag. For example, here, if I want to extract the value of the item so that I can use that inside my HTML tag, what I need to do is I need to have an open angle bracket, a percent sign, an equal sign, and then the name of the variable, and then close that as regular. So percent sign, then close angle bracket. Again, that will be used if you want to use that particular value. If you have any code that you need to execute, like a function or a call to a JavaScript statement, what you need to do is that you just need to have an angle bracket and a percent sign without the equal sign. So again, equal sign is only used if you want to extract the value of a variable. So that's pretty much it. So that's an example of a third-party templating library that you can use as an alternative to FreeMarker and the n/render module. Aside from using third-party libraries as templating engines, one of the more popular use of third-party libraries is for enhancing your user interface, and that is by using user interface libraries. There are a lot of user interface libraries that are available, and here are just an example of a few. For example, if you want to create a responsive design or responsive page, you can use Bootstrap. You can also use jQuery UI if you want to add interactivity on your page. If you want to add a chart on your page, you can either use Chart.js or D3, which are two really good libraries for creating charts using JavaScript. The advantage of using third-party UI libraries is that there are already pre-built components. That means that you don't have to worry about the design, you don't have to worry about building everything from scratch, but just call the libraries and call the functions that are built in with those libraries, and you would be able to use that on your code. That means it allows you to have rapid UI development. So again, you're not going to start from scratch. Instead of designing your chart or maybe designing your tables, those are automatically created for you, and all you need to do is just pass the data that you need, and you would be able to get the UI that you want to create on your page. Now let's go to a walkthrough so we can see how third-party libraries can be used as one, templating engine, and two, how we can use user interface libraries to enhance our custom UI. We're going to use external libraries here, and the two external libraries that we're going to use would be jQuery UI and also Lodash. So jQuery UI, we're going to use that to add interactivity on our form, and we're also going to use Lodash as an alternative to FreeMarker. Now for this particular walkthrough, I can use FreeMarker and jQuery UI and still accomplish the same thing. But I'm going to use Lodash to give you an example of how you can use an alternative syntax for using third-party libraries as a template. Now the goal here is that I want to add a Kanban board inside my employee record, and that employee record would load the information from the tasks assigned to that employee record. Now the Kanban board allows me to visually see if certain tasks have already been started or not started, or if it's already complete. So that's what we're going to do in this walkthrough. This is the template that we're going to use for our Kanban board. As you can see, this is just a simple template. So we have our jQuery UI libraries and also some styles already loaded into our template. We have additional styles defined on the template for our header, the container object, the sortable object that jQuery will be using. If I scroll down a bit, you can see that we have our simple jQuery UI code. So this jQuery UI code is using the sortable function or sortable method so that it allows us a little bit of interactivity with our page. Now scrolling a little bit more here at the bottom, we can see that we have 3 div tags. So we have one div tag for those that are not started or the tasks that hasn't been started yet. We also have another one for the in progress tasks and another last one here for our completed tasks. You can also see that we have our low dash tags here. So we have our angle bracket and then the percent sign. We have the underscore over here, which is our low dash library. And we're looping through the contents of an array. So the array would be not started. So this would be an array of the tasks that hasn't been started yet. We have the ones that are in progress and the ones that are already complete. Basically, it will just loop through that and will write that as a list tag on your unordered list. So this is just a regular HTML tag. So that's what it would look like. Now going to our script. So here I've already pre-created the script. And this script would be a user event script. So this would be loaded using the form object that is embedded within a standard record. Now for this user event script, I will be using 4 different modules. So we have the file module to load our template. We have a search module to assemble our data source. We have our server widget object, and we're going to use the server widget object basically, or module basically, just to load some of the values. And lastly, we are going to use our load dash library, which we will be using as a templating API. If you are going to use Lodash, just make sure that you use the proper library. And if you are going to use that, make sure you put that at the end of your define call or define requirement statement. So here, since the Lodash does not have its own function because of the global nature of the Lodash library, then it would be best if you put that at the end. Otherwise, you will get an error message. Okay, so anyway, so here we can see that we have a before load function, meaning this would be loaded as soon as the page loads. And once we have loaded the page, we're going to get the employee record. So we're going to use that as a reference when we start assembling our data source. Also, we have our form object. Now, if you remember from our Sweetlet, we have been creating our form object using the create form of the server widget method or the server widget module. But in this case, since we are loading a standard record, the form already exists. So what we want to do is that we want to modify that form. So we can get the form object from our before load function using the context object. So context.form. Once we have that form object, the next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to create a tab. So we are going to put our Kanban board inside a tab. It's not required, but of course we want to make it organized so that it's not included in some of the fields that might not be related to Kanban. So that's why we're creating another tab here. So once we have our tab, what we're going to do is that we're going to create a field, and that field would be an inline HTML field. Now, why are we creating an inline HTML field? The reason for that is because we are going to use HTML code that's embedded with an already rendered page. Remember, you already have a form object. We're just reusing an existing form object. So we can use HTML code. We're going to actually set the value of that HTML code inside that inline HTML. So it looks like a page within a page, so something like that. So we are going to get that. And once we have our tab and our field, the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to assemble our data source. Now for the data source, this is probably something that you are already familiar with. We're just going to create a simple search. So this is a task search. Specifically, we're looking for all tasks assigned for the currently loaded employee. That's it. So for this task record, we're going to load 2 specific fields. We're going to load the title field and also the status field. We need to know the title because we need to know which task we're opening, and then also the status so we know if it's in progress or if it hasn't started yet or if it's already completed. Now here, I have my task data. So my task data here would be my data source. What I'm doing with my result is that I am breaking it apart so I can extract the task that hasn't been started yet, the task that is already in progress, and the task that is already complete. And simply, I'm just running that save search and executing that, and then just comparing the value. So if the status is not start, meaning it hasn't started yet, then push that into my not starteds array. So I have my not starteds here, the in progress, and also the completed. Now after that, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to create or assemble my renderer. Now, unlike the render module where we have to create a page renderer, we already have the renderer built into the Lodash library. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get my template. So here I'm just going to call this my Kanban template. So to get that, I'm going to use the same file.load method that we have used previously. Let me just put that in there. Okay. And then as you already know, we're going to set the ID, and the ID would be based on the location of my template. Now the template location is inside the template folder where we have our index.html from our previous module. So let's go to NetSuite here and let's open our template location. This should be really simple because it's inside my SweetScript custom UI dev and template. So I'll copy this, and then the name of my template file is kanban.html. So /kanban.html. There you go. And of course, make sure that I don't forget to convert the angle brackets to a / for that to work. That's it. Okay, so now that I have my template, the next thing that I'm going to do here is that I'm going to combine the template with I'm going to add the template into my page renderer. And again, the page renderer would be already inside my Lodash library. How that would look like, so here I'm going to call my renderer compiled because that would be a compiled template. So underscore, that is my Lodash library dot template. So that's the name of the function that we're going to use for my renderer. And I'm going to pass the value of my Kanban template. So remember, so let me just type that in, Kanban template. So remember that my Kanban template is a file object. Okay, so it doesn't just contain the HTML code, but it contains the URL, it contains a lot of data on that file cabinet object. So to get the HTML content, similar to what we did in the previous walkthrough, I'm just going to say get contents. Okay, so that's it. Now that I have my content, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to combine my data source, which is my task data right over here, and then put that inside our inline HTML field, which is my Kanban field. Now, if you remember from the Sweetlet that we've created, if you want to set a value using a form object, you're going to use the default value property or field. So here, Kanban field dot default value. Okay, and then I'm going to add in the combined template and data source. So compiled, which is a function, then I'm going to pass my data source, which is task data. And that's about it. So let me just quickly upload this to the file cabinet, and let me go to NetSuite. Now I've already created a script record so that we can skip that bit, but we already know how to create a script record. So let's go ahead and test if this works. So let me look for my employee record here. Let me open that, and let me scroll down and let's see if we were able to create our subtab. So we were able to create a subtab, so let's click on that. And as you can see, this is my Kanban board. You can see that it is well designed, and even if I didn't have to worry about the formatting, that's already embedded within the template that we are using. And the neat part here is that this is not a static page. We can actually have interactivity, and that's why we're using jQuery UI. For example, if I want to set something as in progress, let's say phase 2 of whatever task that is, so I can drag that and actually drop that into my in progress to let me know as an employee that I have that as in progress. So I can just drag everything here on in progress, or maybe I can just even move phase 1 and also phase 2 design to completed, just to indicate that this is already complete. So as you can see, I have that interactivity. Now with the template that I'm using, I really am not capturing any of the movements that I've created in my page, or that I've done in my page, because what I'm doing is that I'm just displaying this and showing you how you can use jQuery UI in NetSuite so you can add interactivity. If you want to capture that, that is something that you can definitely do. There's really no reason for you to not be able to capture any of the actions that you are performing on your page. Okay, but again, just for this example, I am showing you how you can use jQuery UI, and it's not capturing anything in the background. So that is about it. So that's how you would create your jQuery UI Kanban board page. If you are familiar with jQuery UI, you can use any of the functions that are available with jQuery UI. And if you are already familiar with Lodash or underscore as a templating engine, that's also something that you can use. But like what I've said in our discussion, you can use FreeMarker in this case. So I can use jQuery UI and FreeMarker, but we're only using Lodash to give you an example of how you can use a third-party templating API with a third-party UI library. But you can still use the render module and FreeMarker with a third-party UI library. So that concludes our walkthrough. A couple of things to remember before we go to our exercise. Please make sure that you use FreeMarker for templates. You are allowed to use a third-party templating engine, but again, if you are not familiar with any of those templating engines yet, start with FreeMarker, because FreeMarker will take you a very long way in NetSuite. Also, take advantage of existing UI libraries, especially if you need any of the customizations that are already available in those UI libraries. For example, if you're going to create a chart, why would you want to design a chart or create a JavaScript library on your own to create that chart when there are already other charting libraries such as D3 or Chart.js that are available? All you need to do is just include that to your script, and you can call those libraries easily and complete your project faster. So try to make use of the existing libraries that are available. So that is about it for this exercise. What we're going to do is that we are going to create a photo manager. So for this photo manager, we are going to use Lodash as our templating engine, and we're also going to use jQuery UI to allow interactivity on our page. That's about it for this module. Go ahead and complete the exercise.